الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. O my Lord, grant me self-confidence, contentment, and boldness. Ease my task for me and remove the impediment from my speech so they may understand what I say. Sadaqallahul Azim. Dear students and my dear subscriber, today I'm here for another subject, and this is about the management. Though the course is about highway construction management and how highway construction manage, how highway construction project should be managed, and what are the tools that can be used to complete the highway project in time and in a profitable manner. Though this is the first lecture, so today I will only discuss about the project management that may be known to you, most of you, but I always tried in my lecture to start from the basic, as if the students or the listeners, they may not have thinking that they don't know about project management, and if they know about the project, this may act as a refresher for them. So let's go to the basics of project management. And nowadays, there is a tendency, and there is not a tendency, but the people, even the contractors, they've been asked to provide project managers and who have the degree or the qualification of Project Management Institute. Those of you who knows PMI, they know this is a consortium. These are the people. This is the training that is needed for a successful completion of the project, and that state people nowadays are needed so that they can handle the project as adequately as it would be. Now, let's define what is a project. Now, according to PMI defines a project as a temporary endeavor undertaken to produce a unique product, service, or result. This also means that the project is not repetitive in nature. The project is a one-time thing. So if you see the project is repetitive in nature, then it is not a project. We say a project is something that is a start time and that is a finish time. It has a budget, a clearly defined scope, the magnitude of the work to be done, and a specific performance required that must be met. So this is a project. And if people are confused, if there is a repetition, it may not be a project. It may be something like what we call a maintenance or something, redoing a project. Again, project is always a one-time job. Now, there are, things that are being said. For example, there is a project management in is dealt with different perspective. Look at this picture. There is a sketch concept given by, say, the architect, and when the architect meets the client, the shape of the project changes a bit. So what happens once this is approved, the working drawings look like this, and after construction, this is the end result. So sometimes what happens is that what is being dreamed is not the reality. So this is the dream, this is the reality. But to tell you what, that is where the project management is. The project management of a good project, someone is that the dream that it should be realized. So this is a idea behind the effective project management. Now, there are project features. It can be divided as temporary, and it has a unique result. So when we say temporary, it has a definite beginning and definite end. And the duration is finite. But there are some projects where duration is infinite, and during the course of this lecture, that is where we call this, we will explain the time scope. So if the scope is changed, this duration of the project becomes infinite, and that is where the problems comes. And most of these courses in the developed countries, they end up with the court decided, and then the definite endpoint may not be as desired. Now, so what is the opportunity or market is usually temporary. Most projects have a limited time in which to produce the product or service. The project team is sometimes the team that is for one project, and it seldom happens that the same team involved with one project is same as it is in the future project. Obviously, there are exceptions. Sometimes, because of the nature of the project, the teams are created for the special purpose of performing the project. So sometimes some people who are there in your present project may not be part of the future project because the purpose of the scope of that project may not be the same as in the previous project. That's why we say this is a temporary thing. Project team is a temporary thing. And obviously, every project is a unique. And it can be because each project may not have the same environment. And a good project is that have got some innovation. As a civil engineer, I always believe that this is what engineering is all about. Engineering is not about producing the same result. Indeed, every problem has a unique solution. And that is what engineering, and that is what the project is. So how you can now define project management? application of knowledge, the skills, tools, and techniques to project to achieve the desired goals. How can I accomplish this? It's because of the integration of the management processing, in which you have to initiate, you have to plan, you have to educate, monitor, control, and close. Sometimes, as a practitioner myself, the field of construction engineering, the most difficult thing in a project management or towards the completion of the project is to start and end. Because sometimes you start very well, but you are not you may not close as you desire. And this, in between that, a good initiation, having a good end, is dependent on these 4 factors: plan, the execution, the monitoring, and control. If all of these things goes well, then you close well. If, God forbid, one of the things is missing or is not adequately foreseen, adequately planned, or adequately thought of, then you may not have a good closing, and this will impact the future of your organization, the future of the person involved in the project. So what is a project management in a true essence? It's an art of organizing, reporting, and completing a project through people. Those professionals who are engaged in this project, if project is completed in time with the client satisfaction, we call this a very well managed project. It would also mean a project having a failure. It is not project management. It is management beyond the perception of any organization. A good project management, if a good technique, if a good knowledge, project management is to be applied, it means these 3 factors: organization, leading, reports. So if you look at this thing, then the project is managed by a leader, a manager, a person who makes things to happen. So for the successful completion of the project is dependent upon the ability of the project manager. And if a person is good enough to perform this duty, then this project will be very well managed. Now, every project is initiated from the problem statement. And when we say problem, is what we want to know, then what is to be designed? What is the project for? So a desired objective is not a problem by itself. And the key to the problem is that there is an obstacle that prevents you from closing the gap. A problem is a gap achieving your opposite objective between where you are and where you want to be, with an obstacle that prevents easy movement to close the gap. Now, a good manager is a problem solver. He always finds ways to overcome or get around the obstacles. Now, most of the projects are in trouble if the scope of the project is not defined, it's not conceived, and is not being followed. If you communicate with the project manager who has an experience of managing the project, one of the problem is the site is one of the problem he will cite, he or she will cite is the scope of the project. Many a times during the execution phase, the scope of the project changes, and whenever the scope of the project changes, the problems originate. And whenever the problem is originated, if it is not tackled well, the end result will affect. It will impact on the cost, it will impact on the timing, it will impact on the relations with the client, and it will impact all the team management. So the thing is that once the scope is defined, it should be uniform, it remain constant. And if there's a problem in the project, it means that there are problems that were problems that were not seen, what not imagined during the initiation of the project. And these problems sometimes become too compounded. And this may be because of the details that has not been visualized, maybe by the contractor at the start of bidding, at the time of bidding, or something that has been overseen without actually thinking of the impact it may cost in the overall completion of the project. So sometimes the scope of the project increases. It's a general trend that whatever you start with, somehow or other, the scope get on increases. And then there is a way when the only time project scope decreases when the budget is cut and some of the original plan work is put on the hold. as a highway engineer, this this has happened because we may start with a 4 lakh project, and then we think because of the increasing cost, it is not, the 4 lanes are not doable. So maybe we first construct 2 lanes, complete it somehow, and leave the other uh, construction in future. So then its time will decrease. Otherwise, this is the great problem in the plan. The problem with the scope changes, and they tend to be small and increment. If a number of them occur, the project budget or schedule may suffer. This is a fairly common cause of a project failure. This is a very recurring thing in a project. For instance, a person has the time of start of the project has planned that he may have some, say, fittings in the washroom that may have some cost. Suddenly, once you are near completion, the client change scope. No. Do not use this thing. Instead, use this thing. No, I don't need this thing. I want this thing to be replaced with this thing. So what happens is that whatever time a person has, a company has, a contractor has spent, he has to redo it. And these problems for a client, it's just that you don't have to do anything. Just it's a small thing. Just remove the tiles and replace with others. For him, this is a small segment. But for the contractor, he may have bought all the tiles with the same prices. Now he has to change those products. He has to buy a new product. He has to redo this work. He has to break this work, and he has to throw those things out. Have to put it once again. So these small things at the end of the project becomes too many things, and that often causes delays, and it also being irritating for the contractor. And at the end of the day, sometimes the client forgot these modifications, and then the budgeting problems occurs. So that's why it's very important that the scope of the project should be defined and is to be remain uniform. Otherwise, it will not, or if the scope is being manipulated, is being changed, it is the responsibility of the project manager to handle this problem adequately, intelligently, without the loss of the time. And one of the ways, ask the thing that it should give them in writing the orders. Otherwise, if you don't take that writing, then you will have a problem in the later stages. Now, during the course of the project, we call what are the project managers. We always keep the stakeholder informed about the impact of scope changes in the project. He informed it, sir, you are ordering this thing, but it will cost this much time to give us in writing, and you should make yourself responsible for what will be the repercussions, what will be the cost problem, what will be the time, and everything that you are suggesting will have to be put on the paper. And this also, this is the one time responsibility of the project manager right at the start of the project. If you ask your stakeholder that if someone if the stakeholder is initiating something, he has to be reminded very clearly that this is out of the scope of the project and it may be dealt in the similar way. But because if it is not being done, as I said, then it will have a different impact. And then this if the protecting them of the surprises, because once a stakeholder says anything, and when you ask them that at the end of the project, you say, sir, you have made this decision, you have made these changes, but for the stakeholder, the device cost may be surprise. And that's where the original targets has to be revised as well. So what should be a good project manager role? Is the ownership. He should own the project. He or she should know, should be, have a passion to do this project. He has to reject before the things happen, not after. When the things already happened, he has to foresee. He must adequately place the project. And whatever he says he has authority, and he should not be dictated by the people. He or she have his decision. He communicate well with all the stakeholders. I always have this example for a manager. A manager has a central role between the client and his worker. He plays a central role towards between the key management official and to the lower staff. For me, it's like a person, like a thing we have in a burger, right at the center, and he is being swallowed from the both sides, from the client side and from the management side. So he should be good enough, should not be very emotional, and at that time should not think that things dictate on him. He works, he manages the data, he lead by example, sound of judgment, motivator, sometimes diplomatic, and is ready to delegate some of his power to the juniors. So, if you want to define the project, it can be abbreviated as PSCT. Performance, scope, cost, and time. Now, the performance means the quality of the work that is being done. Scope, obviously, the quantity of the work, the magnitude of the work that is being done, the cost related to the human and physical resources applied, and the time should be followed in a letter explanation. People define cost as the function of performance, time, and scope. So what does this equation say? The relationship between time and cost is not linear. As a rule, cost increases as the time to do the project decreases below a certain optimum time. P and S, the performance and the scope increases would mean an increase in cost. Sometimes, if you want to shorten your duration, then you have to pay the premium labor rate, and there are chances that you tend to ignore the errors, and sometimes to remove this error, we have to spend more time in the corrections, and consequently, the idea of decreasing time will not be fruitful, not in the sense of the time completion and the final product. It is pertinent to have the project in phases, and it's completely being reviewed by the top management. So, as in a general, a project should successfully pass through each of the project phases in order to continue on to the next. Management reviews, also called phase exits, should occur after each phase to evaluate the project's progress, the project phase, like success and continued compatibility with the organization goals. A successful project is that has phases and is being completely monitored not by the project manager himself, but the top management. And whatever is the input and whatever are what are the gaps should be identified during phases. Sometimes, in a badly conducted project, the following things are ignored. The people involved, the stakeholders. One has to identify, understand, and manage relationship with all project stakeholders. Using the 4 frames of organization can help meet stakeholder needs and expectation, and the senior executives are also very important stakeholders. There is a need for the top management commitment, and it has been cited by the many studies that it's one of the key factors associated with the project success. And top management can help project managers in directing him for upkeep of the standards of the project, specification of the project, timely completion, a word of encouragement sometimes do a lot of good, and the commitment of the top management in achieving some goals help project manager to exercise its control on the project. So this, before going to the project management, it is imperative to have some organizational standards that must be followed, and it would help the project managers, senior management, and use providing status information, and a center of excellence would also help. Sometimes what happens is that in order to complete the project, it's a general tendency to employ more people. And with employment of the more people, sometimes the cost can increase, and sometimes it do happens that more people, more chances of mistakes. So, because, and the project may have many fiascos. So, it's better for a good project management, good and adequate project completion to be scheduled effectively, to manage the resources right from the beginning till the completion of the project. That's it for the first lecture. I'll stop here. And this is what the introduction. I will continue with the introduction the next classes.